championship worthy or championship caliber, they need a transformative trade.
Well, see, that's why I disagree with you. I heard you talk about that on your show yesterday.
I said the same thing about the Yanks. If they don't make a trade, I don't think they have a chance.
Yes.
Like a Devers type. I mean, you got to go for it.
Yeah.
They're looking at this thing right now, and forget. See, I don't even forget about the Braves. I agree with that, but. I mean, the Phillies don't even have Bryce Harper right now.
Right.
Look at that lineup.
The Mets don't. Well, okay.
And look at their staff.
Before the trade stuff, I think they still have one of the best records in baseball. And everything's falling apart. So I don't think the other teams are that good to where the Mets need a big trade. I thought last year they might have needed more of that trade, or there were times. Now with Lindor and Soto in that lineup, or Alonso, I don't think they need a big trade. I just think they need to round out the team a little bit. If I were to ask you, of all the elements that have been failing here, what you believe in the least for this Mets team, what would it be?
I would say the bullpen, and I would feel better about that if the offense was longer, which is why I think they need that big stick. Like, if the offense was banging, and I know they do top three, top four, I get that, but once you get beyond a certain point, and this is nothing new, I've said this for a while, the offense is not going to carry this team to a championship.
Well,
that's just not.
So that's the problem, because that's how they're built.
I agree. I remember you and I talking about this during the winter, like, hey, all right, what they've done from a pitching perspective, it's impressive. Let's see, this is before the year, let's see if it translates again, and it did early, so you got to respect that, you got to believe that they're onto something. But the offense isn't so good where they can overcome too many spots that on defense I think are shaky. In the bullpen that I think there's just things that are beginning to blossom. I mean, you're not getting length from the starters, which means the bullpen's taxed, which means there's more onus on the offense to put up 5, 6, 7 runs, and they're not doing it.
See, I don't need length from the starters. I need quality from the starters. The Mets' recipe was 5 solid, maybe 6, 5 solid, 6 solid innings. Keep the team in the game, offense do just enough, bullpen be fine, and that's how they're going to win games. Now, is that sustainable throughout the course of the season? Right now you're seeing a run. I don't know. Is it sustainable in the postseason? I don't know. But they also aren't healthy. So I believe the biggest reason for them struggling all of a sudden is because the pitching, which was there, is not there any longer. That doesn't mean that the offense doesn't need to do its part, because the offense has not been anywhere near what it was supposed to be. All three of those guys, Lindor, Soto, Alonso, have not clicked together at the same time at all this year. But I believe that will happen. That's why I'm not as worried about the offense as you. Now, it's mid-June. We're reaching the end of June, 4th of July. Obviously, Soto's been red hot. You had Alonso where he's been red hot. Lindor's starting to pick it back up a little bit. Nimmo been okay. Maybe get Vientos back. Like, I'm not as worried about it, although we do need to see it happen. I'm not as worried about the offense. I'm more concerned with the pitching, which I also believe will be better once they get Manaea back and potentially Senga. And they have to add, maybe they have to add an arm or two in the bullpen. I think every team probably could use an arm or two in the bullpen.
Yeah.
But I'm not that's why, this is bad. And if they get swept to Atlanta, I think it's more of a mentality. Maybe they don't have enough dogs in them. But I don't think this is as bad as the 8 of 9 has made it seem.
But listen, I got you. I just think that one of the good elements for the Mets is that there's no perfect team. That may be the Dodgers when they're right and they're healthy. They're as close as you're going to get to being perfect here. But the checklist to me is just too long to look at this team as a World Series team. It's not one thing. It's basically 4 components. Like, if you look at
that way now,
understood, and it's amplified because that's why it's always worse during a losing streak, and that's why I say this, and I try to project the context here, but I got to say what's in my heart and what I've seen, and the starting pitching. And I've been a Peterson fan. You know that. I said, I can't kind of give him a pass. His first 3 innings he was dealing. He hung a couple sliders, whatever it happened.
But he can't be perfect every time.
No. Schwarber hits the hell out of lefties, which is an amazing stat. I don't know how he does it, but I'm not even worried about Peterson. But the starting pitching doesn't seem, for me, it's not elite. In spots it's good, but it's not elite. Bullpen questions, defense questions, 6, 7, 8, 9 questions. You just, we'll get to Alvarez, but the catching situation, big question. Defense at first base, question. Don't love the second base situation. Don't love the third base situation. Don't love left field from a defensive perspective, and I don't love center field.
Yeah.
That's too much for me, and it's not about the losing streak, but it's too many checkpoints where I'm like, man, that just doesn't look the way a World Series team should look.
Correct. And the only reason why I would counter it is I could say that I love Lindor, I love Soto, I love Alonso, meaning that they have those 3 big bats. So starting from there is a great spot because I do think they could fill in some other spots as needed before the July 31st trade deadline. the reason about the rotation. Minaya has not thrown a pitch for them yet, and also Senga, it's promising as far as his return. Well, even if it's after the All-Star break, you're still this team could look very different in a month from now when you have Minaya and Senga in that rotation and Peterson. Now stuff happens, but maybe if they get those guys back and they stay healthy, maybe they could give Clay Holmes a little bit more of a breather, and then he comes back to being the guy that he was. Maybe you start to get some length and help the bullpen out a little bit. Maybe they get a bullpen arm or two back that can help, and that can help them a little bit. So to me, it's not barren. They're building from a place of a solid foundation with those three stars, and in my mind, at least, they don't need to go out there and get a top pitcher if Minaya and Senga can come back healthy. Yeah, I want another bat, but I don't think it needs to be a top bat because they have the other three. Obviously, the bigger, the better. I just don't think it's a necessity at this point.
Well, the Holmes thing is interesting because with Minaya coming back and eventually Senga, you can rest Holmes or you can, manipulate it. They've done before, 6-man rotations, whatever. It's just, to me right now, Sal, that they were in a different spot in their development. And I said this yesterday doing the show for the Javits Center, if Pete was in his mid-20s and Soto, who is in his mid-20s, and Lindor was a little younger, even though Lindor's still a stud, I'm not saying he's old.
He's looked bad defensively, by the way.
Yeah, he has a little sloppy. Yeah. A couple of balls I thought he could have gotten to. I know what you're talking about.
7 errors now on the year?
It's up there, 7 or 8. I think Volpe's got more, but it's approaching 9, which is what Volpe has, who leads baseball. The point being, those guys, Pete might opt out. Pete might be gone. Again, Lindor's not a kid. You've got to maximize this window. This is not an elite team. This is a good team. This is a good team in a great league, the National League. They got to make a massive trade. They're not good enough right now.
BT and Sal, the fan, our friends at Town Fair Tire. Remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Jason is calling from Bergenfield, New Jersey. What's up, Jason?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
What's up, Jay?
So, a couple things. First of all, AJ Minter going down, I feel like completely destroyed the bullpen. Right? You got a really effective lefty who's no longer there. They haven't been able to find that missing piece. That's A. B is, I can't state enough how much they missed Jesse Winker. You talk about lengthening the lineup. I feel like Winker really did a great job with helping that lineup. You missed him, right? A guy gets on base on the left side. You don't have him now, right? So hopefully he comes back. The last point that I wanted to make was you're talking about swinging a big trade. I would love Jared Duran in center field. I'm curious what you think about that. Anyway, thanks, guys.
I don't know if I would take him. It depends on what you have to give up. But will he ever have the year that he had a year ago? Who knows? There's also some, I don't want to say issues there when you're talking about somebody's, mental state. But
anxiety, right? Yeah, he had some things.
Yeah, I would just worry about being maybe fragile or sensitive, and then you throw in New York on top of it. I know he's playing in Boston, he's gotten used to that, but I wouldn't be opposed to it, but the Mets have to do their homework on that one. Somebody brought this up, a caller brought this up over the weekend, and he was actually asking about Mike Trout to the Yankees. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. The Yankees have too many outfielders anyway. What about Mike Trout for the Mets? He looked pretty good against the Yankees and Nets. Yeah.
I think he's got 13 home runs. Mike Trout to me, to answer you directly, sure.
That would be a big, at least big name, big bat potential, and fits a need in center.
Yeah, there's no question. And I think a guy I don't know for sure, I can't prove this, but I would think somebody like Mike Trout would be galvanized jumping into a pennant race here. He's had a lot of seasons where he's been obviously banged up. And his numbers have just fallen in a ridiculous historical manner from where he was to where he is.
But 227, I think.
Yeah, he doesn't run the way he used to. It's not the outfielder he used to be. There's obviously a lot of minuses. But you throw him around a Soto, Lindor, Alonso, Queen's Energy, divisional race. I would have the conversation with the Angels, sure.
Well, think about this. Duran is one name, Cedric Mullins the other.
Yep.
And if I put Mike Trout in that, which all things considered, like Duran, young player, you're probably going to have to give up more to get him. He's got high potential. Mullins,
I think Mullins better fit. Contracts up.
Yeah, he's just a middle of the pack, solid veteran bat.
6-7 hitter.
But Trout is the potential, home run upside. The potential. It could also be a total bust. He could fail. I would not go nuts about that. Winker does lengthen out the lineup, but think about what the caller said, right? Winker is a professional bat that lengthens out the lineup. Those guys should be easy to find on the trade deadline. That's why I'm okay with where the Mets are at. Finding a Soto, finding a Lindor or Alonso, that's near impossible. Finding a Jesse Winker, you should be able to find a guy or two like that if needed.
Yeah, no, for sure. But the problem to me is that there are a couple of other teams out there that are in the mix with the Mets. they already have their Jesse Winker type, if you will, but they also have more than the Mets do in totality. Like, they don't have the holes. And I'm not talking about Soto and Lindor and Pete, obviously. I'm talking about those guys again.